now.
Hi everyone, so I'm Melissa, as just explained. I'm from UH Arts and I'm the Programme Manager for Live Arts. But outside of working for UH Arts, I do run my own Etsy store. So I sell sort of homemade bits, crafts and such. So I'm really interested in all things crafty. Yeah, Jane's asked me to deliver the workshop today, which I'm happy to do. We're going to be making a natural pine wreath. We're all going to have slightly different materials, which is fine. So I'm going to just give you the basics of each step, and you can use your own materials and sort of adjust as you need to. I'm just going to grab one I've already made, just to give you an example of what you could end up with. Excuse my chair. Okay, it's rather large, but so that's one I've made just yesterday, and I've got similar materials to use today as well. I should have said, if there's any questions, please ask. It's no problem, and I'll explain something again if necessary. So I assume everyone's got their own wire base, is that correct? Yeah,
I've got one that's made of sort of wicker material.
Yeah, all you need is just a base, is fundamental, something to work on that's circular, preferably, but it could be any shape really. And has everybody got ribbon? Because that's where I'm going to start. So everyone got ribbon. Okay, so what I suggest you do to start with is take your wire base here. Mine's actually a 14-inch circle. I did ask for 12, they didn't have any, so it's just slightly larger. I would take a length of ribbon. This is quite thick, and I'm going to be doing the hanging first. You'd probably need a length of ribbon at about 20 centimeters in length. So if you can cut yourself a piece of ribbon as the first thing you do, and then we're going to tie a knot in that cut ribbon just at one end. Alternatively, what you're going to do is attach the ribbon to the top of your wreath. My ribbon's quite thick, so I slide a piece of wire through it and then attach the wire on, but you may be able to straight away do a knot and attach your ribbon there. So this is always going to be the top, so always remember when you're working that your ribbon there, your hanging point, is the top of your wreath. So if everyone just gets to that point and attaches their hanger, then we can move on to the next bit, which is slightly more messy. Okay, yeah, so I've got wired ribbon, which isn't actually ideal to do the hanger. However, it's what I've got, so I'm going to use it because it's slightly thicker, slightly less mobile to do intricate things with. Oh, but I've managed to do a knot in it. So then I'm just going to, for me, I'm then just going to take a length of wire and I'm just going to slide it through the knot I've made, just simply to give me something to attach this hanging point to my wreath with. So I've done that, find the top, and then I'm just simply, you'll be doing this a lot today, is just getting your floristry wire or wire that you've got, is wrapping it round just to make it secure so that that hanging point is secure on the top there. So is everyone okay? Has everyone put their hanger on? We're all at the same point, are we? Do shout if you're not, and if you need me to go over anything. Okay, so the next thing is the messy bit. So can I just get, just say if you haven't got it, but does everybody have moss?
No.
No, I wasn't sure if I'd said that. Now, it doesn't matter because you can be doing stuff with your pine while I'm doing my moss. So what you would normally do as the next step to this is put moss all over it just as a base, and it's not strictly necessary. When you buy them already made up, some of them don't bother with that. It just gives a little bit more body, but you all have so many things you need to put on it that actually in the end you probably wouldn't need to bother, but I will. However, does everyone have pine that they'll be using? Yeah, okay.
I've got cedar boughs.
So you might have other foliage as well that you've foraged. You might have holly, you might have eucalyptus and all that stuff that you might have got from a florist. So this is my pine. It's quite nice. It's quite bushy. I've already cut it down. So I bought it from a florist and it was in a big stem, and it's obviously from a Christmas tree that they've cut down, which is something you can do as well. Last year when I was on a bit of a budget, I bought cheapish Christmas trees and I just cut them down for my workshop that I was doing. So what you want to inevitably have, if you don't already have it, is to cut your pine down into sections. Some will be quite big. So I'd say this is probably 30 centimeters in height. So you'll have some that are maybe this big and some that are maybe smaller, but you need to sort of cut your pine down so that you've got branches that are about this big and then ones that kind of gradually get smaller. The smaller ones you'll use to infill the gaps where you need to once you've done your main wrapping with the wire to secure the pine. So if everyone wants to take their secateurs, which you've hopefully got, or some sharp scissors, and start cutting the pine down, and whilst you're doing that, I will just pop my moss on here. Does anyone need me to guide them through doing the moss, or does no one have moss? No one has moss, that's fine.
Sorry, I do have moss, but it's really, really fragile and lots of little bits. I'm not sure it's worth even trying to do. I bought it online and it's...
Is it dry?
Yeah, I couldn't get the moist stuff in time.
Well, how about I demonstrate to you while the others are kind of cutting their pine, and we can see how we go.
Thank you.
Do you want to do that? Okay, let me just grab my bag. Mine is quite wet. Ooh. So lay your ring just down on a flat surface. Take your moss. Mine's full of all sorts of debris as well, leaves and all sorts. What I'll say is to grab a handful, if I demonstrate, about this much, so a handful, and then put handfuls all over it so it's covering all of it. So pop down your bundles of handfuls of the moss and just make sure all the ring is covered. So I'm just going round, popping it down. It can be a bit rough and ready. It's no problem at this stage. So just make sure the whole of the ring is covered. Some of it will fall on the floor. At this point, you're likely to make a big mess. Be prepared. Okay. So once you've got to the point where you're sort of happy with the distribution, you've given it a little, you know, move around to make sure that it's all sort of equal as you can get. And this is the part for you that might be slightly tricky, because if your moss is very dry, it will be a lot more mobile when you're trying to spin your wreath round to sort of wire this on. So what you do once you've layered up all your moss, I'll try and lift mine up. It will potentially all fall off now I do this. Looks like that, roughly speaking. As I say, it's just to give it some body. It's not necessarily crucial. And I'm not sure I put it in my materials needed, so apologies for that, everyone. You take your floristry wire, or your wire, which is potentially going to be on a, what do you call it, spindle? Don't know, like that. You keep it on the spindle, call it that, don't know if that's right, and you take the end of it and you thread a short length of the end of it around your metal base. So take some of the wire and wrap it round. So you're just basically spinning the wire around just to give it security at one point. And then what you do, you take your wire and you wrap it round. You go, oh, it's very difficult for me to lift this now, but you lift it up and you wrap it round, go up and over, up and over, and you leave probably about 2 inches between each wrap, and you're capturing the moss in the wire as you're wrapping it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. It's quite difficult because your face disappears off the screen, and then I'm not sure if you've got me. So that's good.
Are we doing the same with the pine?
No, don't start with the pine at the moment.
Okay.
I'll be with you as the next step with that in just 1 minute. I'm nearly done with my moss. Let's just finish this round here. Okay, so I've nearly got all of that on there. And again, potentially it might have been difficult for people to get moss. You know, you would have probably had to go into a florist and ask for it. It's not something you can really just get off the shelf. You can buy it in Hobbycraft, but again, it's the dry stuff that you use for sort of flower arrangements and things. It's not the same. So yeah. Okay, I'm just tying off. So once the lady that's using the moss, once you've got to the end point, you've gone all the way around, all your moss is as fixed as it can be, you'll cut it, and then you'll do what you did to start with and secure your wire around a point on the base. Just wrap it multiple times until it's secure. Okay, so now next step for everyone that's doing the pine, I'll just show you my wreath now, just so you can see what it looks like with the moss. Bit rough and ready, there's some bits sticking out, it doesn't really matter, it's all going to cover a wreath base that is the size of mine, which is 14 inches. It's the same really for 12 inches. You'll need about 4 or so branches of this size. So if you grab about 4 or so branches, and then pick mine up, to lean over and get them. You then place, hold this up, you place them going round in a sort of clockwise, yeah, clockwise or anti-clockwise, it doesn't matter, but as long as the pine is all going in the right direction, what we're going to initially do is lay it down to see. So you want to make sure the end of your pine, the unattractive bit where you've cut it, is kind of underneath the previous one, you see, and we're not going to wire it yet, we're just going to lay it on and place it on. So again, it will take about 4 big branches to cover the whole thing, and as you wire it on, you'll find that you get much better coverage because you will pull in some of the branches that have escaped, if you like. Let's just get a bigger branch. Okay, yeah. Right, so once you're sort of roughly happy with the placement, and it might take more than 4 branches, it really doesn't matter how many it takes, as long as you can get coverage all the way around. And at this point, we're not looking to cut it anymore. We're going to wire wrap it round, and then we'll have a look and see whether we need to trim it, how sort of spherical it is, and whether we're pleased with the overall look. So as with my moss, and you might have some small branches left, and that's fine, we need those, and we're going to use those as sort of fillers. So they're going to fill in any gaps that we're a bit bare or you're not too happy with. So I'm going to take my floristry wire again. I'm going to attach it at one point by use about 1 inch of the end of it. So attach it, wire wrap it round a few times, keep it on the spindle, and then we're going to wrap it round like we did with the moss. So every couple of inches we'll leave a gap, we'll go round, but as you go round, you're trying to pull in the branches. So if I demonstrate on this one, what you're trying to do is, as you wrap it, you're trying to pull them in and sort of tuck them in as you go. Not too strictly speaking, because you don't want it to look too restricted. You want it to be sort of free flow and sort of, you know, so don't capture every branch, but just the big ones that are really sticking out, you need to get them in. So if we all just begin with that, And unless there's any questions, we'll all just get on with that for a few minutes, but do pipe up if you aren't sure what I've just said. So I'm going to start mine now. So this can be, you know, quite a tricky bit, but the overall look, once you've done it, it is really pleasing. And oh, actually at this point, you know, you could put gardening gloves on. You should have really put them on before now, but I tend to find they restrict me. I am a little bit allergic to the pine actually as it goes, and I end up with little sort of scrapes and things on my hands, but they go away. Okay. So you sort of grab a bundle in your hand to try and capture it, and then wrap as you go. And as I say, they should all be going in the same direction, so they flow round. And each one should be covering up the next one's cut point, if you like, the end of it, the messy bit. If it doesn't quite, don't worry, we can disguise it afterwards, either with a bit more pine or with some decorations. This craft is very forgiving, I think. Okay. I hope everyone else is in much of a mess as I am at this point. I have got
Good.
bits of pine and moss everywhere. Yeah. I did do it in my garage last year. Well, made an example in my garage, but far too cold for that today. So you'll get back to the beginning at some point. You might lose where the beginning was, as I seem to have slightly, but you will find it in the end. Then once you have got back to where you started, this is the point where you can cut the wire off, leave a couple of inches like you did to start with, wrap that end, secure it again around the base, and then you'll sort of be able to have a look at what shape you have, and we'll decide whether you need to do any sort of aesthetic cuts to the pine. So I'll just hold mine up as it is now. Oh, that's my ribbon gone, so ignore that. So yeah, it doesn't look too bad actually. So there's a bit sticking out here. So have a look at yours and say, does it need more in a certain area? And if it does, you don't need to wire those individual branches in. You can slip them underneath the wire you then already have around your wreath. That should give it enough security to attach it. And if it doesn't, bind it again with more wire. It's just to save you a little bit of work. And at this point, you can cut your branches to the need really. So if you need it a little bit smaller in terms of the extra bits, cut it down, slot it in, have a look, see what you think. I'm just going to reattach my ribbons. That wasn't, or maybe I'll leave my hanger because my hanger's fallen off, but it's okay. But it's good to have your hanger on because it gives you a guide as to where the top of your wreath is, and at the next stage that will be quite important. So does anyone need any extra advice at this point, or are you all with me?
Oh, it's all good.
Good. If you're not, please say, because there's no problem. We can just quickly do a recap. Okay, so I'm looking at mine. It looks okay. I mean, some, you know, being a natural product, sometimes the trunk as it is, or the branch, I suppose, shows up, and you might want to cover that up. You can make it as bushy as you can with the pine you've got. I don't know where you all got your pine from, whether you bought it from a florist or the internet or where, but I suppose it depends how much you've got. Be quite generous with it. If you're not going to use it for anything else, pop it in, make it nice and bushy. I mean, it's essential that you can't see the metal ring. So hopefully you've got to the point where you can't see that anymore. Let's just have a look. I think, you know, mine's okay. I'm quite pleased with the overall look of it, but I am going to now just have a look and then trim out. I mean, it's nice for it to be in a spray, so it's nice for it to have some texture, but any that are looking really straggly or just sticking out in the wrong direction, just trim them off. But, you know, leave it with some body, because I think that gives it sort of character and fullness. Just cut off any that are really, really not, you know, in the right place. So you can do that with secateurs, or sharp scissors should do that for you. Yeah, and at this point you might want to just, once you've done that, clear your space slightly. For me, I'm just brushing most of the mess onto the floor, which I will then sweep up.
That's what I'm doing too.
That's what I'm going to do, because that's quicker. I'm just going to give myself a bit of space now, because we're going to be doing slightly cleaner work from this point on. You might be pleased to know. So I'm just going to move my mess. And you can, for one, sorry, can't talk. For a moment, you can move your wreath to the side. Does anyone want to show me theirs if they're not happy or need some advice? Is everyone happy?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah? Do speak up if you're not. Right. And is everyone ready to move on? If I don't hear anything, I'll assume you are. Yeah? Happy for me to move on? Okay, well, we're all going to sort of be doing this at slightly different times, but so I'll show you the things that I have to decorate my wreath. You're all going to have slightly different things, which is absolutely fine. So to start with, some of you might have holly. I chose not to pick holly actually myself, because I decided I think I've got enough stuff. But with the holly, you'll probably want to cut it to say 15-20 centimetre lengths, and you'll probably want, I work in threes. I think aesthetically having 3 of most things on a wreath looks nice. If you don't have 3 of it, you'd have 5, so you work in odd numbers. So if you've got holly, or if you've got anything else, any other foliage you want to add, cut it into lengths of about 15-20 centimetres. And that is what you will then put on your wreath next. I don't have anything like that, but I do have, pick it up, decorative glittery leaves. So it's from like a big spray, and I just cut them down. So on my wreath, I'm going to put 3 of these. I don't need to prepare them in any way, so I can just leave them to the side. They don't need wiring. They're just going to go on. So they're going to go to the side. What I've also got, and I think you have to really use artificial if you're going to use berries, because real ones will die and go mouldy and be no good. So I've got, from a garland, I cut it up, and I've got artificial berries. Again, I work in threes. So I've got 3 lots of artificial berries. They're going to go on. Don't need to prepare them either. They've got their own stem. They're going to just tuck into the wire wreath. Then we have cones. So these are ones I had left over from last year, if I'm honest. I have sprayed them a little bit silver. That's quite nice to do if you have time beforehand. You don't have to do these things. We're going to wire these so that they are attached to our wreath. I'll put them to the side for now, and then we'll do I'll show you the wiring techniques for each of the things separately. So I'm going to put those down. I've got baubles. I assume most of you will have baubles or something similar to decorate. So what you need to do is to cut off the hanging ribbon, because you won't need it. You're going to wire these. So cut off any hanging ribbon and then get them ready and put them to the side, and I'll show you how to wire them up. I've got 3 silver, 3 glittery gold, which are quite nice. I've got a couple of other bits that I pulled off an arrangement that I did that was a sort of a centerpiece that I did in a workshop myself last year. And these are just glittery apples, quite nice, quite decorative. They come in their own wire, so I'm just going to slot them in. I do like to add some Jingle Bells to my wreaths. It's quite fun. These are just from the range. They're glittery. They have a loop there, which I can put my wire in. So they're ready to be wired. Anything else? Yes. So potentially you've got dried fruit segments. I've got these from the florist. I work in 3s, but it's nice if you've got the option to put 2 together. And then, so in total I have 6 segments, but they're in pairs. That looks best. If you just had single ones, that would be fine. I also, last thing I have, and as I say, you can get carried away, you can put loads of stuff on. I have cinnamon sticks. So these are pre-cut from my florist. They were quite expensive last year. I bought them from Morrison's, and I got my dad to cut them down for me actually. But I bought these ones this year. I couldn't get my dad to do that this year. So I would, as a rule of thumb, it depends how thick your cinnamon sticks are, put 3 together in a bundle or put 2 together. Mine are pretty big. So I'm gonna, that looks like 3, but it's kind of 2, 1 that's unwound itself. So I've got 3 of these. So let's start with the first thing that I need to wire myself. If it's not appropriate or doesn't apply to you, you know, you'll get the general idea of how to wire things. So it's my cone, my pine cone. So you take your length of wire, which you will need to cut to about 20 centimeters long. You get the wire tucked into the, I don't know if you call it thongs, don't know what they're called, the bits that stick out of the cone, and you wrap it around the base, and where the 2 ends of your wire meet, you then twist. This is a motion you're going to be doing for all of the wiring. So where the 2 ends of the wire meet, once they've got tucked into the base of that, where they meet, you twist them. So then what you end up with is your cone on a length of wire. The wire is then going to be tucked into the wreath, and that is how you're going to secure it. So that's how you wire pine cones. Everything else is in a similar way. So I'll show you a bauble, as I assume most of you have baubles. You've taken off the ribbon it comes with, so you end up with the little attachment at the top of the bauble. You thread your wire through, as you'll see. I'm going to leave, a couple of inches, and then I'm just going to pull the 2 halves together so they meet, and then I'm going to twist them. It's very simple. Be careful with some baubles, the tops, the attachments come off them pretty easily, so try not to tug too much, as you'll end up with a bauble with no means to attach it to your wreath. So that's that. What you will note here is that I'm not using a hot glue gun. Some people do. I don't have one that's very good, and I find that wiring things is better. So that's how you do baubles. Then I'll show you how to do the fruit. So with the dried fruit, unless you've got a natural hole in your fruit, which these don't appear to have, I just take some scissors, be careful obviously, and just pierce a hole, roll it around a few times near the rind, in both of them. Get your wire, thread it through, this will become a similar theme. Thread it through both the holes. Again, have about 2 inches on the other side, pull those sides together, twist. So you've then got 2 segments attached to each other that you're going to put in. And as I say, I like to have sort of things in 3s. So that's them done. So the Jingle Bell, very similar to the Bauble, obviously, goes through the top of that. Just going to twist it, very much like the Bauble. Just going to secure that. So what I suggest you do, and this will take everyone a slight while, is to get all of your pieces wired up. Okay, so we're all just going to be getting on with that quite quietly, but I'm going to just quickly show you the cinnamon, because it does get a bit tricky in your hands, the cinnamon. So hold your wire and then take one end of it, hold it securely and wrap it around a couple of times for this. You may need slightly longer wire for the cinnamon, and then you twist. So wrap it a couple of times around, then twist and secure. Because you have to wrap it a couple of times round, you're going to need slightly longer wire for that. And again, you have to hold them quite securely, else they try and sort of jump out of your hands. So if we all just, is there anyone got anything else that isn't something I've mentioned and they're not sure how they're going to attach it? No? Everyone good? Good.
I've been brave and gone for some whole dried oranges, but the wire seems to be going through in the cut.
Oh,
going all the way through, so.
Yeah. No, I really like that. Yeah, you'll find with most natural products, they do have a hole somewhere. And, you know, with the wire, it's just a case of trying to secure it somehow. You'll find you get a bit, I don't know what the word is, trigger happy with all of this in the end, and you sort of wire it up and it's, you know, you just get it in anyhow because you're keen to just see the end product. So we're all just doing this for the time being, and then the next step, once we've wired them all up, that's the fun and creative bit. I think this is the hard work. The next bit's the fun and creative bit. So as I say, if you've got foliage, additional foliage, add that in now. I won't sort of go back on how to do that. I would suggest you put it into your wreath in 3s. So, and going in the direction of the spray of the pine. So I hope that makes sense. You don't want it suddenly jutting out at a different angle. You want it to go round. So it's all looking sort of in a spray, all going in one direction. Okay. So it does take a while. It does depend, obviously, how much stuff you're putting on yours, really, as to how long this will take you. But it's, you know, it's quite therapeutic, actually.
Sorry, Melissa, just quickly, someone said, can you use battery-powered lights?
Yeah. So if you've got lights and you want to light your work, I would suggest that that is something you do now before you decorate. So you would, I've not done it myself, but I can imagine the way to do it is to wrap them around as in the same direction as the spray. So you're sort of just looping like you did with the wire. You do it with your lights, and then tuck the battery pack at the back, or maybe wire the battery pack onto the back of the wreath ring. So it's all secure, and then you're able to get your hand in and sort of flick it on and off. Hopefully that answers the question for that person. If it doesn't, let me know. But that would look really nice, and I do know people that do that add lights. I haven't done it, but I might. You can do it after you've decorated, but actually it's easier to do it beforehand. Otherwise you're having to avoid all of your decorations, which is really difficult, I would say. Okay, so we're okay for time, keeping okay time here. The next bit is quicker than you might imagine, actually. The timey thing is this. So I am probably 3/4 of the way wiring everything up now, I'd say. Yeah. You might hear my jingle bells going off here. Doing my orange segments here. If you hear any strange noise in the background, I have to apologise. It's my children's guinea pigs who are now living inside the house in our kitchen because it's got too cold outside, and they make this quite sweet sort of vibrating noise. Can be a little distracting though, and a little odd if you didn't know what it was. So I just thought I should let you know. All this working from home stuff, you get a bit of an insight, don't you, into other people's lives, which is quite nice. Okay.
Quite amazing what's hidden behind the screen, like what you can see, and then everything else around the rest of the house is an absolute.
Yeah, my boss does that. She says it looks all neat and tidy and really pristine, and then she shows us all this clutter that she's got just boxed up. So that's quite funny. It's actually quite good, isn't it? You can hide. I've turned the camera this way actually because we're in my kitchen, but I don't want you to see my kitchen because there's some pans on the side. I'm going to ignore them for now. Right. So I'm nearly finished wiring. Oh, you might still very well be doing yours. Don't rush. Obviously, if we finish in time if we finish for the workshop and you haven't finished, once you've learnt the basics, it's really easy for you to complete yours without my instruction, as long as you've sort of listened and got the basics under your belt, I would say. So where we should be now is everyone should have hopefully nearly got everything wired up to their satisfaction. So at this point, we've got everything wired. We're going to go back to our wreath. So I'm just going to move aside all these wired things again. Excuse the noise. And I'm going to bring back my wreath to in front of me so I can have a look at it. Okay, so excuse me while I grab it. Okay, so as I say, you will have a top to your wreath. It will be where your hanger is. As I said, mine fell off. Not very good workshop leader, but these things happen. So what I'm going to put on mine next is my sparkly, what are they? Oh, sparkly leaves. So again, as I said, I'm just going to tuck it in and I'm going to secure it just by nestling it in, pushing it in, catching it on a bit of wire, just in we go. So it's just sticking out there like that. Fine for now. Then I've got 3 of them. I'm going to place the other one. It's sort of equidistant so that all 3 are sort of the same distance apart. As I say, aesthetically, that's kind of how you're going to work. I think that looks best. Some people don't do that, but just visually, for some reason, it tends to work. If you've put something in the wrong place, pull it out again, stick it into another area. That's the good thing about the wiring, and nothing's that permanent. So these are my 3 silvery, can't really see that too well. They're sticking in there. They're quite secure. I might want them not to stick out quite so much, so I might wiggle them round, catch them under a bit of pine maybe. If it's still not looking how I want, I could attach them in with a bit of wire. I don't think that's necessary. I think they're okay. So again, if anyone has artificial berries, do the same, but you'd want to maybe have these in between the extra foliage you've put in, or as I say, just in 3s, but catch them underneath the wire. Once I've done this, I'll show you so you can see visually what it looks like. From the artificial berries, you know, they do look visually quite stunning actually on wreaths, because if everything else is kind of natural, one wouldn't assume that they are artificial really. They're sort of coloured foam though, and I did find these are good ones actually, but some of them sort of look like they'd been nibbled by a mouse. So I tried to kind of cut those ones off. Okay, so yeah, that's okay for now. So there's my berries, got some there, some there, some there, as you'll see. So that's okay, quite happy with that. So I'd say the next thing I might put on, but you can do this, you can at this point actually, I'd say get those basics on, but then we're going to just lay everything on the wreath where we think we'd like to place it. And then we'll secure it once we're happy visually of how it looks. So then you haven't sort of tied them in and then you've got to undo it all. So if that, at that point, you just get your threes of everything and you kind of place them around equidistant from one another. So I've got silver baubles, I've got 3 of these. Separate them out, put 1 in each gap. You're going to get quite full. You'll probably think there's no gaps. There's always gaps. I can always find room for extra baubles or sparkly things, but then that's my taste. If it's not your taste and you want something simpler, go for it. It's your wreath. So I'm just laying mine out. Got the cinnamon. So yeah, you'll want to sort of, I mean, you can have it, you don't have to have it all on the top per se. Some of it can sort of sit to the side. You'll get a feel for what it looks like once you've started doing the placements of things, and then you'll sort of understand if you're happy with it or not. I think you generally get a feeling for it. So I've nearly placed all of my bits and bobs. What I might attempt to do is pick up the laptop now and show, this may not work, and show you what this looks like looking down. If I pick it up now, it's all just going to fall off. So I don't want to do that. But I think, yeah, generally speaking, I'm probably quite happy with the placement of all of that. So this will sort of give you the general idea of what this will look like. Here we go. If this doesn't work, sorry. Okay, do you see that? Am I showing you it? I think I am. So you probably can't see it too well, but it's quite full. It's quite ornate. It's got quite a lot going on. Again, I like it like that. If you don't, then that's absolutely fine. Simple can be really nice as well. So at this point, if you're happy with your design, you're then going to secure everything. So everything's wired up, and you simply take the length of wire. At this point, you may wish to cut your length of wire down. You probably only need 4 inches maximum in order to thread it into your work. But I find at this point, I just get a bit lazy really. So I just poke through the wire, get to the back of the wreath, hopefully the wire makes its way out the back, and then you just find any tethering point in your ring or willow or whatever it is to bind it round, just so the ornament, the decoration is secured in. It's as simple as that really. So I'm just going to go round now, trying not to move the ones that are just sitting on top. Oh, there's a couple's fallen off, never mind. And I'm going to bind them all in. And then we're sort of heading, once we've done that, or this will take a while, we're heading towards sort of finishing touches after that, which if you've got it, might be a large bow. And I've got more wired ribbon that I will use to make a nice bow for mine. I find wired ribbon is better for wreaths. So it just gives you more structure to your bow. Is everyone okay? Does anyone need any help at this point? Oh, I can see a lovely wreath there, Bridget. I saw yours. It just popped up. That looks lovely.
I'm not quite there yet. I'm trying to hide all the gaps.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. This is one of these crafts where you can sort of keep looking, I find. But it is easy to disguise, you know, imperfections, which I like. I don't have that much patience. I love crafting, but if it's a craft that is just so intricate and takes so much time, it's probably not one for me. Okay. Oh. Oh, bouncing on the floor. I mean, if you're clever, you can take them off in a sort of circle outside of the wreath so that you can see where they're going to go without knocking them off, but I'm not that clever. And I also don't have that much space to work, so I'm leaving mine precariously balanced on top of my wreath. Okay. Jane, have you managed to do anything, or have you had to give up? She may not be there. No. Not sure.
Yeah, definitely not being able to do any.
Oh no! That's a shame.
It just keeps running around. And
That's dinner time anyway, isn't it? Oh.
So I'll quick kid-free moment. I will do it.
It's nice sometimes to do it when you have a calm moment. Get yourself some mulled wine, maybe. Oh dear. So sometimes the wire seems to disappear as you point it, as you try and poke it through, it's gone and you can't find the end of it. Just take it out and try again. It's just what happened to me just then. And again, I'm not neat about securing the wire. I just find a bit of the base below and just get it round it any which way. No one's going to see the back of your wreath. So I really wouldn't worry about that. It's just to make sure your bits and pieces aren't loose. That's the most, you know, the crucial thing. Ooh. Yeah, this wire is a bit tricky. Okay. If you've got cinnamon and dried fruit and things, like, you know, it will smell lovely once it's made. It's very, very Christmassy. Other bubble down. Excuse me. Jumped onto my chair. Oh, there it is. Okay. How's everyone getting on? Let me know. Tell me how you're getting on.
Yeah, mine's good. I'm quite happy with it.
Oh, can we see it? Well, you've got
it on the front door.
Yeah.
It's up.
We're gonna have a look after. Maybe when we stop recording, everyone can turn their camera back on. Right. Well done if you've nearly done yours. That's good quick work.
Well, yeah, it's probably because I'm a bit lazy as well, and I don't faff around. I just, get it done.
Well, it's different than if you're in a workshop and you've got people, your friends sat next to you, isn't it? Where you'll just be chatting and then, drinking tea and not actually getting on with the work, but being on our own, we're just going to focus a bit more, aren't we? Okay, so I'm making quite good progress as well. I'm nearly done with the wiring on, but again, I've got a lot of stuff. So it is something you can do in parts, like, one evening you might sit down and wire all your bits up, and then you might actually attack it another occasion. It depends if you're doing.
I did a wreath workshop last year, and I kept some of the bits. So
Yeah,
I did have some bits that were already wired up, so that's
absolutely. It is something you should do. You should definitely take them apart when you're done and keep the decorations. I mean, that's, it's a bit wasteful to just throw the whole thing away, really.
Yeah, I kept everything I could, really.
Yeah, the base and everything, you really can just keep all of it.
Lots of stuff I kept, yeah.
Right. I'll realise when I lift this up that I haven't wired something on in a minute. No, just found it actually, a cone. That's not wired on. I was just going to lift you up. Oh, no, there's a few bits over there that I've done as well. Okay, spoke too soon. I will shortly be ready to show you.
Oh, I better get mine down from the front door then.
It is only when you sort of hang them up that you get the final view of it, and then you're like, oh no, I've got a big gap, or Come on. Can't find the wire at the end of that. Come on. Okay. Couple more bits and then I'm done. Right. Okay, I think that is everything I wanted to put on. Again, mine doesn't really have a top because the hanger fell off, but this is what it looks like, roughly speaking, at the moment.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Lovely.
It will have a top. I'll put it on there. Oh, I've just found some cinnamon. Anyway, I'll put that on in. Oh, and a jingle bell. But I'll add them on in a second because I think we had an hour for this workshop, so I don't want to keep people longer than the time because you may have somewhere to go. So where I put my bow is directly at the bottom. So what do I want to say? It makes sense, really. The hanger's here, you say it was, I would attach the bow here. But the way I attach the bow, because this is now so thick and bushy, I take my wired ribbon and I do the bow not attached to the wreath initially. But the way I attach the bow is to use wire again. So you cut yourself a length of wire again, about 20 centimetres seems to be the rule of thumb here. I would take my piece of wire, get it centrally into my piece of ribbon, which mine is probably, I cut it to 1 metre, which sounds like a lot, but it actually really isn't once you, especially if your ribbon's thick. So you try and capture the wire in the centre. And then as you do your first knot to create your bow, your wire is caught in there. And that wire is what you use to fix the bow on. So you do a nice big broad bow and you don't have to have a bow. It just kind of tops it off really for me. Gives it a bit more colour. You can get some really lovely Christmas printed bows, ribbon. I think this year they sold out so much stuff when I went to go and look. I think people have been going crazy because, you know, all the garden centres were kept open during lockdown. So I think people were going there and buying more than they normally would, actually. So here we are. Let's just give you a little look. And again, with it being wire there, you can kind of manipulate it and make it a bit nicer. So generally, that's the bow. It's not the best bow. It's okay. I would then take my scissors and cut the end of the bow at an angle, like so. That just finishes off your bow, makes it look a bit more professional. So I'm going to do that. Okay. Yep. And then I'm going to take my wreath. And like with everything else, once you've got your wire on it, you will just keep it. I'd keep the two lengths separate, or you can bind them together. It's up to you, whichever way you find easiest. Prod them through the base of the wreath, then just secure them at the back, and your bow should sit quite nice and snug at the bottom, or you can have it at the top. Depends visually what you like. I always do it at the bottom. I don't know why. A lot of people put their bows at the top. Either way, that's kind of the last sort of bit of glam, really, the last bit on your wreath. I mean, if you really wanted to, and I did do this last year, I may do it, but if you've got glitter spray, which you can buy from florists or craft stores, so it's sort of a clear spray just with very fine glitter in it, gold glitter or silver glitter. You can kind of give your work a shimmer. I would suggest just go on the pine though as much as you can if you do that, because it can discolour the baubles and things. I learned from experience with that. People use snow spray. Again, avoid your decorations, just do the pine. But there's a couple of extra bits I'm going to put on. I'm pretty happy with that.
Very nice.
Here's
mine.
Final products. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's beautiful. Let's have a look if people are happy to share. You may not be finished. Oh, lovely. And that's lovely.
And that's really nice.
They look good, don't they?
Oh, lovely. Yeah, really good.
Billy likes them.
Oh, that's good. So hopefully, if you're not quite finished, you would be able to finish yours now. And if you are, well done. That was quite quick work. I did my first workshop in 2 hours. We've done that in 1 hour. So that is good work. Hopefully you're pleased with what yours looks like. Sorry about to omit the moss, but again, I'm not sure it was essential. And if it's dry as a bone, that's not really much help either, really, but it gives it body. And I'm not sure it gives longevity to the pine, but potentially if it's damp, it might do. But the pine should definitely last anyway. Definitely through Christmas for sure. So yeah, hopefully you're all happy with yours. And thank you very much for taking part. It's been lovely to make this with you. Do send Jane pictures. If you haven't wanted to share at the moment, do send Jane some pictures of your work. And I'd love to see them.